starting a Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you're situated on this great, big, beautiful blue globe floating through the void of Yah's creation. It is the second day of June 2025, and as usual, holding the mainstream legacy media's feet to the fire. They've lied, they've manipulated, they've massaged, they gaslit, and they lie. Guess what? You won't be trusted anymore. All right, where do we start on this first day of Veterans Month? That's right, Veterans Month. I'm not going to, there's some other people that claim the entire month for themselves. And yeah, they're so proud of their accomplishments, but I don't know what they've accomplished. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I'm glad to be here for the first day of Veterans Month. I'm Dave vonKleist, and these are the WTF reports, as if we don't have enough reason to go, WTF! Oh my gosh, it's just hitting the fan to the left, to the right, to the front, to the back, to the top, to the bottom. It's crazy. All right, so anyway, before we get started, I humbly and respectfully request that you visit our website. Yes. Please go to the WTF Reports. Click on our sponsors page and do business with our sponsors. And while you're at it, you might want to consider picking up some of our new products. We have new merch out there. We've got coffee cups, T-shirts, baseball caps, and the newest addition to the T-shirt has 3 words on it. What are those words?
Bribery, coercion, blackmail.
Yeah, they say money makes the world go round. Yeah, well, it's not just money. It's also those 3 magic words: bribery, coercion, and blackmail. And if you agree, get a T-shirt! WTF, come on, get on board with us here. Help us out. Anyway, that said, there's so much misinformation going on out there. And over the weekend, a whole bunch is broken out about having to do with who is Joe Biden. What is Joe Biden? Has there been a masquerader? Has somebody been wearing a mask all this time? I mean, it's been all over social media. People are now starting to look very hard and very closely at the Joe Biden of, say, 10 or 15 years ago compared to the Joe Biden that we had in office over the past administration. And they're saying, wait a minute, something doesn't add up here. And some of these videos, these video clips, they are extremely compelling. I mean, there's one video clip I was just looking at. You could see his face and his neck is pasty white, but halfway down his neck, all of a sudden, there's a sharp line and there's a darker area. It's like there's a mask. Say, wait a second. People are starting to take another look at that. And then people are also starting to look at his inauguration. On Inauguration Day in 2020, when Joe Biden was inaugurated, it was a very cloudy day in Washington, D.C. Yeah, it was overcast. And yet, when you look, and I highly recommend you do your own research. I'll say it again. Do your own research. Go do a search on Inauguration Day for 2020 for Joe Biden and look carefully, because on the television coverage, it was a sunny day. It was bright sunshine. But not only that, but if he's supposed to be sworn in at 12 noon, which he was not, he was sworn in at 11:49, I think it was. But it was before 12 noon. Not only that, but if you look at the video, you'll notice it was a sunny day and people had long shadows. Wait a second, at 12 noon, you're supposed to have short shadows. It's midday. The sun is overhead. So why would there be long shadows in the video of Joe Biden's inauguration? Couple that with the idea that there were also military troops all along the motorcade with their backs turned to the presidential motorcade. Why would they turn their backs to the newly sworn-in president? That's really interesting stuff. Again, do your own research, folks. And when you do, you'll be out there screaming WTF just like I was. Now, to complicate things, there have been, like I said, there's a lot of misinformation being thrown out. Of course, we can expect that from the ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC, Fox. You're going to get subterfuge and manipulation, gaslighting, propagandizing from all of the major networks. So a lot of people have now switched over to some of the new conservative networks that are out there, like Newsmax, OAN, News Nation, Real America's Voice, etc. But I got to tell you, they're not telling you the whole truth either. No, they're not. There's and I wouldn't say just as much subterfuge and manipulation, but they're just not telling you the whole story. And I've said it before, folks, you can't be mostly pregnant. You can't be a little bit pregnant. Same thing with the truth. It's either the truth or it's not. You can't have most of the truth or a little bit of truth. It's a constant. So the point is that you're not getting the whole truth. And on social media, there's a lot of horse hockey that's being thrown out there. Now, over the past several years, I've seen a bunch of different websites. I'm not going to name them. I don't want to, get anybody pissed off or anything, but there are several websites out there that have been putting out information like that. Oh, the military tribunals have been going on since 2018, and that many very high-profile people like Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton and a bunch of others, have already faced a military tribunal and paid the ultimate price for the crime of treason. Now, of course, I take all of this and say, yeah, right, okay, haven't seen it happening. I mean, Derek Johnson was talking about that several years ago. Oh, yeah, we're going to see the military tribunals are going to have an emergency broadcast system. And, we're going to see the tribunals, and everybody's going to be shown what's really been going on. Hey, well, I'm still waiting for those tribunals. However, I found it really interesting that Governor John Kasich, in an interview, and this is like a couple of years ago. This is right after John McCain passed away, and I found it really interesting that he made the following statement on CNN. Listen carefully to what he had to say. Here it is.
It's like 24 hours since John McCain was put to death.
What?
This circus of a hearing that's...
Let's listen to that again. Let's listen to it again.
It's like 24 hours since John McCain was put to death. And look at this circus of a hearing.
Since John McCain was put to death? We didn't hear about that, did we? Wait a second. So I got to stop and I say, maybe I need to take another look at some of this stuff. That's why I'm saying, folks, we have to do diligence. We have to really dig and take everything with a grain of salt and understand that there's a lot of misinformation. I mean, we are in a global info war right now. So we have to be very, very careful about, what we put out there as truth. And by the way, I made a mistake last Friday, I think it was. There was a quote that I attributed to Zbigniew Brzezinski, but it was actually John Brennan. And it was, we know our mission is complete when everything the American people know is wrong. Something to that effect. But I stand corrected. I said it was Zbigniew Brzezinski. I was wrong. That was the name that popped into my feeble brain here, but it was actually John Brennan, former CIA. Anyway, I wanted to throw that out there. Like I said, there is a lot of misinformation that's out there. And we just have to be very diligent and work through it, Now, there's several different issues that I want to get to. Of course, we've heard over the weekend that there were massive drone attacks in Russia. And I find it really interesting that Lindsey Graham and Richard Blumenthal were over there in Kiev a couple days ago. They just got back. I find it funny that they would go over there, and then right after that, we have all these drones that attack. But there's something about all that money that was being... Let me see, where is it here? Okay, let's see. Here it is. There's a woman who just did some digging. She's doing her own research. And what do you suppose she found? Listen to this.
This is going to blow your mind. We have some shocking exclusive. Senator Lindsey Graham and Richard Blumenthal have some explaining to do. Okay, their hotel bill will blow your freaking mind away. While Senator Lindsey Graham and Richard Blumenthal strut through Kyiv, Ukraine, Jaw-dropping State Department records just showed how much it costs the American taxpayer. Today, June 1st, 2025, two staggering transactions just surfaced. One completely mind-blown of, okay, guess how much? $403,172. And another one for an eye-popping $411,634. What in God's name were these two doing? Who are they inviting? How? What? We need some answers. This is absolutely wild. Something is going on. What are they delivering cash to him? I mean, is that a side pocket money? What is happening here? Receipts are at the end of the video. This is absolutely wild.
Yeah, anyway, and she posted the receipts. I saw them. Yeah, over $800,000 to have these two yahoos go over there and meet with Zelensky in Ukraine. And as soon as they leave, wow, there's all these drones. By the way, those drones were supplied by NATO. They're doing everything that they can to kick off a war. They want World War III, the globalists. They know that their days are numbered. They know that a lot of stuff is coming down that they don't want to come down. But the bottom line here is that they're doing everything that they can to kick off a war. And, of course, all this money that's been flowing around from these NGOs. Well, there's a little bit more information about these NGOs. Listen up.
So it turns out 7,000 politically connected NGOs are receiving 90% of all taxpayer money going to nonprofits. Roughly $300 billion in government money flows through nonprofits every year with zero transparency with regard to where that money goes. The American people deserve access to the books of any entity that takes government money, and all information about how that money is used and the communications around it need to be considered public record. That's our money, and these NGOs need to start answering to us. Agreed.
These NGOs have got to stop. It's just, the U.S. aid and the USIP, I think it is, there's just so much money that's coming out of the taxpayers' pockets and going every place other than where it's supposed to be. So, anyway, there's so much to get to today. Oh, my gosh. Okay, I'll tell you what. There is, I have to laugh. If you don't laugh, you're going to cry. There is a plan for an invasion of the entire Western world. And yes, there are some Orthodox Islamic priests that basically spelled out exactly what their plan is. Give a listen to this.
700 years of our trial to conquer Europe by force failed. They did something wrong, very wrong. They tried for many years to conquer Europe through wars, only wars.
This is the soft Islamic conquest of the West. Basically, what the Islamic, and again, I'm an Orthodox Muslim. What we couldn't do in the last, say, 20 years, now the West is doing it for us for free and even paying for it.
Allah permitted them to live off the infidel while they are subduing them. So it had sort of a parasitic type of attitude where they can live off of the host country, where their goal is to eventually eradicate the host culture and supplant it with Islam.
Okay, now that's laying the premise for the next couple of clips that I've got here. So it's a soft invasion, okay? That's what you would call it, a soft invasion. As a matter of fact, Trump even alluded to that, and he made the following statement, and here it is.
You've seen what happened when Europe opened their doors to jihad. Look at Paris. Look at London. They're no longer recognizable. And I'm going to get myself into a lot of trouble with the folks in Paris and the folks in London. But you know what? That's the fact. They are no longer recognizable. And we can't let that happen to our country. We have incredible culture, tradition. Nothing wrong with their culture, their tradition. Can't let that happen here. And I'll never let it happen to the United States of America.
Okay, so there's two different things having to do with the Islamic culture infiltrating into Western culture. And a lot of people are not too happy about it. I mean, like Trump just said, look at what's going on in Germany. Look what's going on in France. Look what's going on in the United Kingdom. As a matter of fact, as far as the United Kingdom is concerned, that soft invasion is well underway because people of the Islamic faith have basically taken over a lot of the political positions. As a matter of fact, here's an assessment of what's going on in Great Britain across the pond.
The mayor of London is Muslim. The mayor of Birmingham is a Muslim. The mayor of Leeds is Muslim. The mayor of Blackburn is Muslim. The mayor of Sheffield is Muslim. The mayor of Oxford is a Muslim. All of this was achieved by only 4 million Muslims out of the 66 million people in England. Today, in England, there are over 3,000 mosques. There are over 130 Sharia courts in England, and there are more than 50 Sharia councils. 78% of Muslim women do not work and receive state support and free accommodation. 63% of Muslims do not work and receive state support and free housing. State-supported Muslim families have an average of 6 to 8 children who all receive free accommodation. Every school in the UK is required to teach about Islam. The number one most common baby name in England is Muhammad. This is not immigration. This is invasion.
Mm-hmm. And I wonder if the same thing is happening here. Well, take a look around you, folks. I mean, down in Texas, there's a lot of scuttlebutt right now about an area that is being called Epic City, that is being designed and constructed exclusively for Muslims, and they will have Sharia law in their city. Now, how is this legal? I don't see that it is. But you see, the politically correct, you can't say anything against that. No, you can't. Well, I got to tell you, you folks in Texas and the surrounding communities, when this whole thing starts to go down, we'll hear legions of people going, WTF! Oh my gosh, what happened? Well, you know what? There's a lot of talk right now. A lot of people are very upset with Ilhan Omar, and they have good reason. As a matter of fact, I covered this right after it happened last year, and it's come back to the front of the table here. So, but what she was doing, let me explain. She was addressing a group of Somalians, and she was speaking in their native tongue. So she wasn't speaking English, and so I'm going to have to translate. The transcript is here as she's speaking. So let me see. I'm going to play this. Turn the volume down. Here it is. My answer to Somalians was that the U.S. government will only do what Somalians in the U.S. tell them to do. They will do what we want and nothing else. They must follow. Whoops, that went really fast. They must follow our orders, and that's how it will be. We Somalians must have the confidence in ourselves that we call for the. Oh boy, it's going by so quickly. She's going by. We Somalians must have that confidence in ourselves that we call the shots in the U.S. We live in the U.S., pay taxes in the U.S., and have a great deal in the U.S. Investment in the U.S. country, where one of your daughters, like myself, is in Congress to represent your interests. As long as I'm in the U.S. Congress, Somalia will never be in danger. Its waters, the Indian Ocean, will not. You see, okay, yeah, they will not. U.S. It goes by so quickly. The U.S. would not dare to support anyone against Somalia to steal our land or our oceans. Sleep in comfort knowing that I am here to protect the interests of Somalia from inside the U.S. system. Okay, the women like myself you sent to you sent to Congress is working day and night to protect your interests. She knows the plight of your plight and that of Somalia. I'm concerned about Somalia as you guys are. Together we will protect the interests of Somalia. Okay, so anyway, you get the general idea. Now, of course, she's expressing her allegiance or dedication to Somalia. Now, of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene is taking her to task on that, and well, she should, because if you're in Congress, you serve this country. You're in the United States Congress, you serve the United States. You cannot serve two masters. Now, I've taken Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi and many others to task because they say Israel. Israel is first. Well, that's another issue altogether. But the point is here is that Ilhan Omar is facing censure right now. But you know what? I think she's going to be facing a little bit more than that because Representative Steve Drazkowski has had a press conference. Wait till you hear what Ilhan Omar is going to be facing now.
Omar on the U.S. House Committee on Foreign Affairs. I'm also asking Congresswoman Craig to initiate an ethics investigation into Congresswoman Omar because of questions about federal tax fraud, federal immigration fraud, federal student loan fraud, and state violations of perjury, bigamy, kickbacks, and acts of campaign fraud abuse in Boston, Washington, New York, Chicago, and Florida. There are also violations of state ethics or of the Minnesota House ethics rules regarding colleges for speeches she gave while she was in partial control of their budgets as a member of the House Higher Education Finance Committee in both 2017 and 2018. She was found guilty of the violations by the Minnesota Campaign Finance Board 3 weeks ago in order to return those funds on June 6th. Ms. Omar appears to be a serial career criminal and should not have access to our nation's highest secrets and intelligence. That is why I'm calling on our Congresswoman Angie Craig to protect both our national security and our respect of the rule of law. Tax fraud, immigration fraud, student loan fraud, perjury, bigamy, kickbacks, and campaign abuse fraud from the East Coast to the Mississippi River. If those charges had been brought against Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann, the Star Tribune would not have said on Sunday that she was attempting to, quote, skirt the law, and then followed up with a front page story the next day on a pie-in-the-sky proposal that had zero chances of becoming law. Minnesota deserves better. America demands more.
So Ilhan Omar is in deep doo-doo right now. And let me throw something else at you here. Remember that under the Obama administration, all of a sudden, all the walls came down and we had all these refugees. And, of course, it happened again under the Biden administration. But we had all these Somalian refugees. Now, what is a refugee? A refugee is a person who flees a country for their own safety. Right? Does that make sense? Yeah, a refugee. So we have all these Somalian refugees come in here. And, of course, now they get, housing credits and they get, all the benefits. And, of course, being Muslim, they have big families. Yeah, they'd have 6, 7, 8 kids. And all of those kids are tax supported. Okay, the families are tax supported because the women don't work. Okay, so they get all these bennies. They get all this money. And so they end up having a lot of jing in their pocket. And guess where they go for their vacation? They go to Somalia. WTF? Are you kidding? Wait a minute. Whoa, wait a second. I thought they were refugees. They were fleeing for their lives. So what is it they're going back there for? Oh, my gosh. Are we being screwed over or what? Oh, my God. I got to take a pause for the cause.
Get More Tank will save you money every month on gas. Get More Tank is a tablet with active ingredients that adds big mileage to every tank. Made in America, the Get More Tank formula is used by trucking companies and heavy industry. Now the Get More Tank formula is available to you. Get More Tank works in any gas or diesel engine, cleans your engine, lowers emissions, and you'll feel improved engine performance every time you step on the gas. Get More Tank works for cars, trucks, boats, motorcycles, four-wheelers, mowers, and blowers. Hey, if you got an engine, then Get More Tank. Contractors, electricians, plumbers, painters, and lawn service companies, Get More Tank will save you money and extend the life of your engines. If you're an owner-operator running your big rig around the town or across the country, Get More Tank will save you money too. If you're a farmer, all of your equipment can use Get More Tank. A 5-pack on sale at GetMoreTank.com for just $22.22 plus shipping. Use the promo code RedPill101 and get 10% off. Save your money, save your engine, save the earth at GetMoreTank.com. Get More Tank is EPA registered, doesn't void warranties, results vary.
And you can get more tank by visiting our website, TheWTFReports.com. Click on the sponsors button. It'll take you right down to the page where you can visit the website at GetMoreTank.com, get all the technical data and specifications, and you'll understand how and why Get More Tank is so good. It will improve the power of your car, your performance. It'll run cleaner, and most importantly, you're going to get between 15 and 20% an increase in your gas mileage. Do the math. $20 get you 5 tablets. That's 5 tanks of gas. And if you're getting 20% better mileage, that means the 5th tank is free. So in one purchase, you come out ahead of the game. This is a no-brainer win-win situation, folks. So absolutely, positively, without a doubt, go to our website, TheWTFReports.com, and get more tank. And while you're there, like I said, grab some merch. We got some pretty cool stuff. We got the coffee cup, the T-shirt, the baseball cap, and the brand new T-shirt with those 3 magic words.
Bribery, coercion, blackmail.
So you can help us keep the lights on. And by the way, we're looking to expand this broadcast, and right now it's just audio. It's on the Red State Talk Radio Network. But we're in the process right now. We are also heard on BitChute and on Rumble and on YouTube. And we want to turn this into a podcast. That means I'll be on camera and I'll be able to show you these video clips because I'm here with the receipts. I'm here with the audio receipts. You get to hear them. I'm not making this stuff up, folks. I do think outside the cage. Hopefully, I help to put some of the puzzle pieces together and make the big picture. But if we go on camera, you'll be able to actually see the video clips. You'll be able to see the documents that I refer to. And but that's all going to cost money. So we started a GoFundMe. So if you want to help to support the cause and upgrade the WTF reports and get it on video and on a bunch of different platforms because it all costs money, then, hey, you can make a donation to GoFundMe. So, and again, you can find the GoFundMe button at our website, TheWTFReports.com. Okay, that said, I realize that I'm all over the map today. There's a lot of stuff to get to, but I wanted to point out that CNN, listen to this, CNN did a bit about the lawfare that President Trump has had to deal with. Okay? I realize that, yes, there's all these lawsuits. I mean, lawsuit after lawsuit and impeachment, lawsuit. But do you know how many lawsuits have been thrown in his direction? Listen to this.
The courts have halted Trump's admin agenda a huge number of times. What are we talking about? We're talking about at least 181 times that they have at least temporarily, halted Trump's agenda. That is a huge number. To give you that in percentage terms, in over 50% of the cases that are presented to courts, the Trump administration agenda has been halted at least temporarily. So Donald Trump, tries to do these actions with his administration, but the courts have been saying, hold on, wait a minute here. Then they have said that at least 181 times so far in just the first few months of this administration.
181 times in the first few months of this administration. 181 lawsuits. And that's what the Democrats are throwing at Donald Trump. Well, you know what? You want to talk about hypocrisy? You want to hear hypocrisy? Check this out. Let's turn the clock back a mere 2 years. And Anderson Cooper was talking to AOC about this exact situation because, President Biden was making decisions. And of course, some of the courts were saying, well, no, you can't do that. It's sort of the same thing that the courts have been doing to Trump. But you see, if you're a Democrat, it's a whole different ballgame. Listen to what AOC told Anderson Cooper in regard to, legislation that might go against a presidential decision. Listen to this.
Well, I think rulings like this, and I think we've seen from the FDA and also from activity in Congress, that some of these rulings, I think we've been preparing and anticipating for there being these egregious overreaches by members of the judiciary appointed by a right-wing Republican Party whose goal for a very long time was to just pack these courts with partisan judges, often underqualified or completely unqualified.
I'm going to pause that. Okay, packing the judges with all these Republican. Wait a minute. Do you know, hey, AOC, do you know this guy named George Soros? Yeah. He's been doing the same thing. Okay, go ahead. Finish what you're saying, AOC.
For their role. And so there has been thought, I believe, given to this. Senator Ron Wyden has already issued statements, for example, advising what we should do in a situation like this, which I concur, which is that I believe that the Biden administration should ignore this ruling. I think that we, the courts have the legitimacy and they rely on the legitimacy of their rulings. And what they are currently doing is engaged in an unprecedented and dramatic erosion of the legitimacy of the courts. It is the justices themselves, through the deeply partisan and unfounded nature of these rulings, that are undermining their own enforcement.
So you're saying the Biden administration should ignore this court, but what does that look like? What does that actually mean?
I think the interesting thing when it comes to a ruling is that it relies on enforcement. And it is up to the Biden administration to choose whether or not to enforce such a ruling.
Good for the goose, but not good for the gander? Can you smell the hypocrisy? I know you can hear it, but this is just unbelievable. Just unbelievable. And, both parties, they're more concerned with maintaining their power. I mean, it's just, I'm so PO'd at some of the rhinos here. I mean, after all the efforts that Elon Musk and his Doge team have done to uncover the fraud, waste, and abuse, and nobody's codifying the cuts. No. Why not? Because most of them are getting their pockets padded from it. That's why. Not just the Democrats, the Republicans as well. So all this effort is for naught, right? When are the people of this country going to stand up? When are you all going to realize that this is of, by, and for the people? And the people is you. You and you and you and me and you and you and you. Okay? And until we stand up, until we activate ourselves, until we break out the pitchforks and torches and storm the castle, and I don't mean that in a literal sense, but then again, maybe that's what it would take. We have to make these elected officials, not just on the federal level, not just on the state level, not just on the county level, but all the way down to your town, USA level. I mean, I can't help but think, I live in a little town in northwest Montana right now, and I can't help but think that Doge needs to come to this town. Well, you know what? I don't care where you're listening to this broadcast, but I can guarantee you that Doge needs to come to your town as well. There's so much corruption, and you know what? A lot of it has to do with bribery, coercion, blackmail. And once you know it, once you see it, there's no escaping it. You can't unsee it. And that's just the way it is. Anyway, okay, changing gears once again. This issue that's going on over there in Israel and the genocide in Gaza. Of course, they don't want you to use that word. No, the BBC made that word verboten. You cannot say the word genocide on the BBC. And there's a lot of other networks here that just don't like you talking about that magic word. But, so I'll just call it what it is. It's annihilation. It's extermination. That's what it is. Now, I'm not a Hamas sympathizer, and from the clips that you've just heard, you know doggone well that I'm not here to promote Islam. But the bottom line is that we are talking about human beings. We're talking about women, children. We're talking about journalists, doctors. We're talking about every piece of infrastructure that they had, past tense, had. They don't have hospitals. They don't have their mosques. They don't have their schools. They don't have infrastructure. They don't have water. They don't have food. They don't have weapons. They don't have a navy. They don't have an air force. They don't have an army. And yet they're being bombed relentlessly every single day. I'm sorry, I can't live with that. But you know what? There's a lot of people that just didn't want to believe that because, you know, Israel has great PR. Oh, man, just scroll through Facebook and you can see all these posts and how wonderful Israel is and how you can support and send your money to Israel as if they're not already getting enough money. How many billions of dollars do we send over there and all the hardware and the weapons of war that cost billions of dollars? And they got free health care. They have free education. They got all kinds of perks and bennies and stuff like that. And we're paying for it. How does that make sense? What do we get out of it? Is that balanced and fair? I don't think so. But I'll tell you, there's a journalist out there. You may have heard of Abby Martin. Well, she was invited to go over to Israel and see for herself. And she went over there in 2019, and she saw the horrors. As a matter of fact, here's what she had to say about that.
I had a debate with an Israeli spokesperson who said, "You're wrong about Israel. Come visit Israel, and we'll show you the truth." And so I said, okay, I'll see the truth for myself. So I went in 2016, and wow, it was a transformative, life-changing trip. Everything that I thought I knew was actually much worse than I had even thought. I spent 4 weeks traveling all across the West Bank, small villages, refugee camps. I remember going to Hebron, which was the most visceral example of Israeli apartheid I'd ever seen. And then, of course, going into the borders of 48 was just the absolute dichotomous opposite. Spending several weeks with Palestinians, hearing their hearts poured open, the most beautiful, welcoming, gracious people I've ever met in my life. And no one ever said anything remotely racist. No one said anything remotely anti-Semitic. And it was just the opposite of the narrative that we've been told our whole lives. Now, going into the borders of 48, the racism and bigotry was visceral. It was palpable to the point where I couldn't even bear to be there for more than a couple hours. I was so disgusted with how racist Israelis were. And there's a reason why Americans are not shown what Israeli society thinks and believes on camera. We're only shown a very sanitized version of what Israeli society thinks and believes because they handpick spokespeople with American accents to speak to Americans. Israelis don't ever speak for themselves.
Isn't that amazing? And, you know, I've seen many, many videos that people have posted on social media of Christians who are in Tel Aviv or in Jerusalem, and they are getting attacked, they get kicked, they get spat on. And all you Zionist Christians out there, all you people out there like Mike Huckabee. Mike Huckabee, of course, has been a big, drum beater for Israel and Zionism, and now he's ambassador to Israel. And all these other pastors out there that are saying, John Hagee, what the heck happened to you? What the heck happened to you? Well, I don't know. Maybe it was those three magic words. They keep coming up.
Bribery, coercion, blackmail. Yes, either you play ball with us or something could happen to your family.
Yeah, that's the way they work it, folks. And I know that for a fact because during the 90s when I was with Joyce and we were the American Gulf War Veterans Association traveling all over the country to try to get help for the veterans who were exposed to chemicals, biologicals, and experimental medical procedures and drugs. And we had all the documents. Matter of fact, we had a Senate report, and we were in Denver, Colorado, and we approached one of the senators that sat on the panel and said, "Hey, Senator, how come you're not doing anything to help these veterans? You've got all the documentation. It's right here in the Senate report that you sat in on the panel. Why aren't you doing anything?" His response, "Because I want to make sure that my 15-year-old daughter has a sweet 16th birthday." That's the way they play it, folks. It's disgusting. It really is. And, of course, that's the coercion part. And then there's the bribery part. All you got to do is look at how much money is being put into the pockets of your elected officials, and you'll figure out who they're serving. How much money did you contribute to your politician's campaign? And how much did the corporation put in their pocket? Now you figure out who they're going to represent. That's the way it works. That's another issue altogether. I don't know. Getting back to this issue with Israel, I got to tell you, there's a podcast out there, a group that call themselves the Young Turks. And one of the members of the Young Turks is Anna Kasparian. And she went on a rant, and I don't always agree with these guys. They lean more liberal, more Democrat. But you know what? They're coming around. But she gave a rant. Man, she let it all. Hey, tell me how you really feel, Anna. Here you go.
It's our money. It's our money. If Israel wants to carry out war crimes, they shouldn't do it with our money. You can't, on one hand, demand that American taxpayers who are desperate for a better life here in America, they need to hand over billions of dollars to the Israeli government and the IDF, and we need to shut the F up about any of our critique. AIPAC is evil. AIPAC is evil. Evil. My fellow Americans, are you okay with that? Are you okay with a lobbying group representing the best interests of a foreign government telling you you need to bust your ass every day, work a job that you likely hate, and have a portion of your earnings taken from you by our federal government and funneled to the Israeli government so they can commit atrocities in the Gaza Strip? Are you okay with that? Because I'm not okay with that. And nothing gets under my skin more, okay, than hearing these pieces of crap. They feel entitled to our money. Entitled. That gets under my skin more than you guys understand, okay?
Yeah, and she's right. They do feel entitled. They absolutely do. And I'll tell you, they got, it seems that most of our Congress is like an anatomically incorrect Ken doll because they don't have the goodies down there to do anything about it. Oh, maybe it's just because they're concerned about their pockets. Or maybe it is concerned because they have a 15-year-old daughter. They want to make sure has a sweet 16th birthday. But then again, maybe they're on video doing something very nasty to young children. That's what's making the world go round. That's why things are so screwed up here. And I got to tell you, this pedophilia thing is just out of flaming control. But I'll get to that in a minute because I got one more clip here having to do with Israel that you need to hear. And this is Gerald Celente and Judge Napolitano. Now, this is starting to go mainstream, folks.
Get this straight, everybody. The people running Israel are not Semites. Let's just start with that. They're Ashkenazi Jews from northeastern parts beyond Turkey back in the day. Semites are people from the Mesopotamia region, like the Palestinians. Like the ones the Israelis are slaughtering. That's right. They're the Semites. I keep hearing this word, and I got to tell you, you mentioned that guy Herzog before, the president of Israel. He said, God gave us this land. And I'd say to him, hey, what if I don't believe in your God? Could you handle that? Could you handle that? Oh, no, I got to believe in your God. And you know why I have to believe in their God? Because, quote, we're the chosen people. You're just a piece of crap.
Chosen people? Chosen for what? It's starting to go mainstream, folks. People are noticing. They really are starting to notice and pay attention to what's going on. And, we've all had this, what's the word I'm looking for? We've been brought up with the constant, in the baby boomers right after World War II and the 50s and 60s, and there were all these movies all about the Nazis and how bad they were, and the 6 million Jews, 6 million, 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 over and over and over and over and over again. And, it was drummed into our heads about, what was going on in Nazi Germany and that there were 6 million Jews that were in the gas chambers and all this other stuff. Well, you know what? There's more and more stuff that's starting to come out that is challenging some of that. And, one of the big things that really blew my mind, and I had to hit my reset button, is that they've taken, some of these old video movie clips of Adolf Hitler giving his speeches, and you see him, with his fists in the air, you hear all this stuff and everything. Well, they took his speeches and put them through AI and translated them into English in his voice. Have you taken the time to listen to any of them?
Oh, I would never listen to that Nazi. I would never listen to he's Hitler. He was
Have you listened to what he said? Have you? You would be shocked. My eyebrows went all the way up into my hairline when I listened to what did he say? What? And then that prompts a little bit of investigation. Of course, you shouldn't do any research. Don't do any research. No. Well, guess what, folks? We all have something to learn. We all have to swallow our pride. We all have to discover humility. Because we've been lied to. Lied to big time. Now, I'm not here to tell you Hitler was a great guy and all that. No, I mean, there was plenty of bad crap that went on both sides. You know, Churchill was not that good a guy either. Neither was Eisenhower. They all did some nasty stuff. But, you know, George Patton, you know, he tried to tell us, you know, before they took him out, he says, you know what, I think we were fighting on the wrong side. Why would he say something like that? Well, we need to do some research. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there, folks, and believe me, you know, I'm not here to support genocide by anybody. I don't care if it's Nazi Germany or I don't care if it's Israel. It's just that bad. Okay, genocide, bad. Yeah, I can understand that. Keep it simple, stupid. Genocide, bad. Murder, bad. Annihilation, bad. Extermination, bad. That's all bad stuff. All right. And another issue altogether. You know Ryan Mata? Ryan Mata. Yeah, he produced the film The Sound of Freedom. It came out in the movie theaters about 2 years ago, and it's all about the sex trafficking that's been going on all over the world. And Ryan Mata has been digging in and doing lots of research all over the place. And one of the countries he was focusing on is Guatemala. Now, what's happening and what has been happening out of Guatemala will curl your nose hairs. I mean, it'll just freak you out if you understand how deep and how monstrous the actions are going in Central America. But in Guatemala, he was talking to one of the high-profile attorneys there who didn't want to use his name. And the entire interview is about an hour and a half long. And I listened to almost the whole thing. But I was shocked in some of the things that this attorney had to share. Because it's not just the Red Cross, and it's not just USAID that's been involved and all this money. But, I mean, it ties into, and he actually said it, Marco Rubio. What has Marco Rubio got to do with this? Well, apparently the 2023 election was fraudulent, and Mr. Rubio had something to do with it. Not only that, but he's up to his eyeballs in covering up some of the sex trafficking. Isn't that interesting? Oh, you know who else has been implicated recently is Anthony Blinken. Oh, gosh, it gets worse and worse, folks, I'm telling you. Did you know that Anthony Blinken's father-in-law was a guy named Samuel Pizar? And Mr. Pizar, of course, he's passed away. He passed away about 10 or so years ago. But Samuel Pizar was Robert Maxwell's attorney. Robert Maxwell, yeah, father of Ghislaine Maxwell, who's the associate of Jeffrey Epstein. Do you see how incestuous some of these relationships are? And then you look at who's funding this, and it all goes back to AIPAC. Oh, my gosh, yeah. HAIS was involved in helping all the illegal immigrants get through the Darien Gap and up through Central America and come into the United States. And HAIS board member was Anthony Mayorkas before he was coronated as the Department of Homeland Security chief. I mean, it's just so incestuous to say nasty monsters over and over and over again. Now, how are we going to stop it? Well, again, it's up to us. We have to figure it out. The first thing you've got to do is get informed. The first thing you got to do is start thinking outside of the cage, looking for answers and not looking for them on the mainstream media, because they're going to lie and twist and just basically contort everything into their narrative. So you have to look outside of the cage. Do your own research. Yes, go to the social media platforms, but take some of them with a grain of salt because there's a lot of misinformation out there too. But you got to be able to have the discernment and use common sense. And I realize it's illegal these days and frowned upon. Remember during the pandemic, they were saying, don't do your own research. No, trust the science. Trust the science. Don't do your own research. And what's the comedian's name? I can't remember, but he was making fun of that. He was saying, don't do your own research. Oh, I'm going to go out and buy a car. Well, don't do your own research. Trust the car salesman. Yeah. Anyway. So anyway, Ryan Mata, like I said, he's been doing a lot of digging, and some of the names that are coming up, some of the names that are coming up are going to really freak you out. As a matter of fact, this has been going on for quite some time. News Nation did a story about the children who, unfortunately, are abandoned at the border. Whoever the person is that's trafficking, if he all of a sudden feels like, oh my gosh, they're going to catch me, here comes the Border Patrol, and he splits and he leaves the children. Listen to this report. This is horrifying.
Mexican law enforcement, and it shows officials floating along the Rio Grande River and then coming upon these 3 children, ages 9, 6, and 1, who are just stranded on the Rio Grande River bank. The 3 are sisters, and you can actually see the oldest one handing off the sobbing 1-year-old to officials. Mexico's National Migration Institute says that despite the fact that temperatures were cold and the river currents were swift, human smugglers simply left the 3 children to their fate. And unfortunately, this is an everyday reality here along the U.S.-Mexico border. Fiscal year 2022 saw 152,000 unaccompanied children encountered at the border, which was an all-time high. And the numbers have been seeing a sharp upward trend over the last 26 months, totaling 324,000 unaccompanied children. That's nearly equivalent to the total seen over the previous 7 years combined. Those who have worked in law enforcement here on the border say, in order to bring about any tangible change, there needs to be a stricter enforcement of border policy that's already on the books.
It's horrible. I've investigated these cases, and they continue to happen, and we must, how do we control it? Well, we take control back of the border. I'm not even asking secure the border. I'm talking about how about we start with taking control of it and give the authority back to our border agents to enforce our laws.
That's right. We need to enforce the laws. We need to shut the border down. We need to put troops down there, whether they be, National Guard or the military, I don't care. But we have to stop the flow of all these illegals coming in here. And I want to point out that under the Biden administration, for you liberal Democrats out there that are screaming bloody murder about these deportations, ye reap what ye sow. You didn't have any problem opening up the border and letting millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of illegals come into this country. Now, of course, they're not all bad actors, but we don't know how to discern who are the good ones and who are the bad ones. Not yet, because there's no documentation on some of these guys. And, of course, there's the Maryland father that got deported. Now, all the liberals are screaming, you can't do that. No, you can't. No, bring him back here. Bring him back. What, are you crazy? Are you out of your mind? And, of course, yeah, there are mothers and stuff like that have been here, and, yes, they're illegals, and, unfortunately, they've been nabbed by ICE, and you liberal Democrats are out there screaming bloody murder. Well, you created the problem. You're the ones that are to blame for it. If you hadn't opened up the border and let tens of millions of people across this, many of them military-age males coming from countries that are hostile to the United States, oh, I guarantee you, folks, we're going to see some real interesting stuff in the coming years and coming months and years, if we get to the term years. And there's, in the closing minutes of this broadcast, I just want to give you a heads up that there is a gentleman that was a former intelligence officer, and let me see if I can find that, if I have enough time to play this clip. No, I don't. Oh, well. I'll save it for tomorrow, but there's a lot of scuttlebutt right now. People are saying that on or around July 4th, we're going to see some real horrific things happen. I don't know what. I don't know what to expect, but we all got to keep our heads on straight, keep our eyes open, and keep thinking outside of the cage. All right, that said, that's going to wrap it up for today's June 2nd edition of the WTF Reports. Once again, I humbly request you visit our website, go to our sponsors page, check out the Wave Watch. Wave Watch is cool. Do some research on that one, folks, and I think you'll find out that this is something that you might want to have considering what we've got coming down the pike. Yeah, anyway, that said, that wraps it up. I'm almost out of breath. A lot of stuff to cover today. All right, God bless you all. Thank you for your listenership. Stay safe, stay free, and as always, I'll see you tomorrow.
The roaches take flight as you turn on the light. You won't